Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have just arrived in Colombia for their cosplay royal tour, where they will dress up and attempt to be like royalty, but without a smidge of the class, decorum, and diplomacy that royalty entails. And I couldn't help but think, are they increasingly looking, potentially, you could say, corrupt? Now, while that is just my opinion, I think Harry and Meghan are treading into very, very dangerous water here because they are going to a foreign country. They are essentially accepting money via security and everything from a foreign country without any way of making it beneficial to that country. They're not going to increase tourism. They're not going to really generate interest. They generate a lot of headlines, but rarely does that actually result in tangible effects. Even their so-called investment in anti-bullying and everything on social media has yet to really offer a single result. Yes, they have launched their Parents Network initiative with a very, as Jane Pauley said,
this is it's a modest beginning. You know, it's not an army of parents.
No. And she's not wrong. This is a mediocre operation at best, with no way of ever being able to be a return on investment for any country right now hosting Harry and Meghan. They are not royals. They're not billionaires like Elon Musk, Michael Bloomberg, Bill Gates, or even Jeff Bezos, who can actually walk into a country and get treatment like that because they could drop $1 million like that. Harry and Meghan are not those people. And every time they do a tour like this, they open themselves up not only to greater criticism, but potentially looking like they are going with corrupt operations. And I'm going to explain to you why I think that is. That is obviously just my personal opinion, but I'm also going to share with you some other thoughts about at least this first day we have here. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany. I provide you all compelling royal commentary, so feel free to smash that subscribe button. I would absolutely love to have you back. And I am so sad because I did this unboxing and I can't show it to you guys quite yet because I'm still working on editing the video. I thought I would get it up earlier this week and I didn't, but I have this new glorious bracelet from Ana Lucia Diamonds. It's a 2-carat tennis bracelet. I'm absolutely loving it. And I also have this studded necklace here, which I changed out from my usual one because I like, oh, I just want something just simple today. We're going simple and classic, you could say. So if you guys are interested in any of that, feel free to check out the link up above. And if you use code ROYAL20, you shall save 20%. So when this tour first started off, I saw a single picture somebody posted, and then it was kind of weird because I didn't really see anything else. I thought it was kind of odd. I was like, well, where is everything? Because we should be expecting more at this point, because usually when it comes to tours and events like this, the professional photographers go with royals and we get just a huge cache of photos from every event they attend. But with Harry and Meghan initially, that wasn't really the case. We got this one photo of them arriving, and then the next picture we got were these from their website. And even actually, I believe it is, let's see, one of these pictures here. Oh no, it's this one right here is even offered on Getty Images. You can purchase this picture for $500 from Getty Images because Harry and Meghan handed this picture to the image company. And it does have a little thing that says this is what's provided by a third party. But I thought that was a little strange because I'm like, why isn't anybody coming with them? And I think it's a reflection of a tour that is going to be something completely different than what we're used to, and something that I think potentially sets a very dangerous precedent. So let's look at a couple of things. Of course, one is, of course, PDA. Harry and Meghan, they are well known for holding hands and not being able to keep their hands off each other. And you could say, and Harry and Meghan stans have said, it's just because they love each other. But that's not really the case, because we saw this recent CBS interview where they were very clearly angry and frustrated with each other. Like, you could not hide the tension between them as a couple. You could not hide it at all. It was so incredibly, incredibly evident. And so when you see something like that, and Harry and Meghan go on to this next thing and do more PDA and look maybe a little bit better together, you got to wonder, okay, so how much of this PDA is an act? And I think a lot of it somewhat is. Yes, sometimes they feel it, sometimes they really don't. And so we do have this on this tour, just a couple of different things. And of course, Meghan's very handsy anyways. She likes to touch people. She really does. It's kind of her thing. She likes to be touchy-feely and touchy. And so we do have these pictures, of course, as well that they shared with everyone because we'll get to it, but they're very doing things a little bit differently on this tour. So we had them. This is at their ending event. Meghan doing a little dance right here, though, but she's got her hand on his leg and trying to the look of love, you could say. And some of these were a public facing event, but this was done privately later. And I just can't help but think how real is that particular black and white picture of them. I don't know how real it is because in that CBS interview, they were very, very clearly tense. Harry literally was leaning away from his wife nearly the entire time. But now, definitely, we're putting on this loved up display. And I think there's a alternative reason for that. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. And I got to say, too, here, Harry looks kind of super awkward and she looks a little manic. They just can't ever seem to be totally on the same page here. And the next thing I wanted to point out is that Meghan definitely very much has her mask on, which is this teeth bearing grin that you just can't get away from. In fact, there was like a picture and it's like her teeth are so white that like you could see them across the room. And it's almost to the point of being distracting. So we got another picture here, the grin, the mask. And of course, too, we got to get our sexy selfies in. And wow, you can really see a lot of the back of that dress. Very appropriate, right, for school, knowing that you're probably not wearing a bra. Maybe you're maybe a strapless one, but that's the thing. But she very much has her typical mask on, which is this just forced tense grin. And sure, you're supposed to grin at different events and stuff like that, but it comes across in some of the videos and stuff. It's like she's like on display. She's like, yeah, yeah. You see? You see? You know, perfect straight back. Like there's not really a relaxedness to her. It looks like she is on. She has her moments and she's on so that she can make sure to show the perfect image to the press. Now, I somewhat get that, but at the same time too, she always has this risk of coming across as disingenuous. Because you'll notice throughout these pictures, Harry has different expressions. His expressions drop and everything. Hers does too. There was actually kind of a funny instance where they all looked super duper miserable and they couldn't really hide that, which was this one right here talking about the smiling Duke and Duchess. Yet we do not see any of that from any of them here in this particular picture. But Meghan definitely has an agenda she's trying to push, and she's definitely putting on a forced image. And we just see this again on just full display here. And it's something that I've come across for a long time is that when I'm looking for pictures of Harry and Meghan, it's and even Catherine and William, you like getting pictures of different expressions, serious, sad, happy, like laughing hysterically, crying or something. You want these different pictures because the picture sends a different image. Meghan's one of those people where she's almost always has the same expression. And because it never seems to change, you always got to wonder if it is a mask. And I think the mask is on full display here for sure. And the next thing I noticed, and these a couple ones are real quick because I want to get to the good juicy ones, is that this tour again is very much all about Meghan Markle. It's all about Meghan Markle. And yes, I understand she and Harry both have, you could say, a big influence and footprint, but he's the actual prince. He's the one anyone actually really cares about. I mean, the sole reason they're getting any sort of treatment like this is solely because of who Harry's father is. No other reason. No other reason on planet Earth would anybody else be treated like this except for actual dignitaries, real royalty, and billionaires who have billions potentially, or at least millions to invest in a country. Harry and Meghan have none of these things. They have none of these things. They don't really have real influence, real power, real money to make grandiose changes or help in any sort of way. Like Elon Musk has Starlink. And if he gave Starlink to Colombia, why they would give him probably a big host party because he's actually helped them. Harry and Meghan aren't helping anyone here. But this definitely is all about Meghan, in part because of how the vice president presented this. But let's look at the pictures first. So again, we got Meghan. They're at this school here doing these things. But what you'll see here is that Meghan is always the one in focus. It's all about Meghan. If Harry doesn't realize this, he's in a world of hurt because it's all about her. So you see this Columbia intro thing. Meghan introducing as if she's the dignitary. Meghan, she's almost like you. I almost think in my mind of like Bill Clinton, and he has Yasser Arafat on one side and whoever the Israeli president or prime minister is on the other side. And he's like having them sign these accords. I can't remember what they're called. And so he's like there, this diplomat greeting both sides and melting. Like that's how she looks. And it's bizarre. It's quite frankly, it's bizarre. And the reason though is how in the world they got this invitation in the first place. So as the Telegraph reveals here, the vice president said that she was deeply moved by Harry and Meghan's reality TV show. So the whole reason they're there is because of their reality TV show and their story, which was deeply embellished. And so she said that a visit from Meghan, not Harry and Meghan would strengthen so many women around the world. Yeah, no. She doesn't really strengthen anyone because Meghan offers no power. She is only in it for herself at the end of the day. You see it reflected even in the pictures on their website. This is all about her. And you notice it too if you go through and look at the pictures from the Invictus Games promotional event they did it in Vancouver. Meghan was the focus of the vast majority of those pictures. It's all about her. And because she only cares about herself at the end of the day, she can't help anybody else fundamentally. She cannot help anybody else. And if the vice president of Colombia believes this, Francia, then she's just, I think, being pulled for a ride because Meghan doesn't really care. And we'll get to why. So obviously they met them and they exchanged tea and coffee. And Ms. Marquez expressed her gratitude for the couple's official visit and told them they share the same ideals and goals when it comes to championing a safer digital future for all. But the problem is Harry and Meghan have done literally nothing on this position, really. Like they have made no great impact. The parents' network, as Jane Pauley said, is microscopic. It's not an army. It's a small little cadre of people. And yes, everything starts small, but generally, if you start something small, the best thing not to do is not to go on international television and tell everybody how great you are, you could say, or how great this is when you have like 5 people signed up. Usually you want to have like 100 people and have a proven track record of change before bringing it to the world. It goes on to say, and this was the statement to the Colombian media, because I'm sure people of Colombia can and should be asking, why the heck are we paying for this? Says, Colombia, the country of beauty, is hosting a very special visit. Starting today, we will welcome Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. This is their first visit to Latin America. They've both been to Latin America, actually. Meghan did her internship in Argentina. Harry has also been to Guyana. And he may have been to other places, but I know he's been to Guyana. The purpose of their visit is to build bridges and open doors that will allow us to join forces in raising awareness and addressing a global issue that concerns us all: cyberbullying in the digital environments and discrimination, which pose a risk to everyone's mental health worldwide. This is not only is this grandiose from the vice president to say, like it's grandiose of Harry and Meghan to see they're not enacting any change because they're not actually doing anything to enact change, because what they want is censorship. They're not actually saying, let's address people's behavior. Let's censor everyone. And the reality is censorship with them will only go one way. It will only go one stinking way. And it will go against people who have a different opinion than them or the people who don't like them. That's the way it'll go. It won't go any other way. It'll go against people who disagree with them. That's what'll happen. And so it keeps going. Ms. Marquez continued, undoubtedly, this partnership will help us advance in protecting and ensuring the rights of children and adolescents. It also aims to promote the leadership of women in Colombia and around the world. This visit was made possible thanks to an invitation we extended to Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, last year. And let's go on. And again, that is grandiose delusions, in my opinion. This is not going to change anything. Nobody's going to go anywhere. this ain't going to change diddly squat because Harry and Meghan have no power to enact change, nor again are they doing anything to actually enact change. It's like, it's like a two-way street thing. You got to kind of do a couple of different things. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. The vice president is asked, "How did I get to know Meghan and Harry?" And she's like, "I first encountered them through the media. And I particularly watched the Netflix series about their lives and stories. And it motivated me to say, this is a woman who deserves to visit our country and share her story. And undoubtedly, her visit will strengthen so many women around the world." Yeah, a princess in a palace who didn't get her way is going to help empower other women. Yep. Yep. It's hard because I'm not in Colombia, but I would say to the Colombians out there, and I would be curious what you think about this roundabout ridiculous reasoning. And she goes on to say, "At that time, I sent her an invitation letter, but she responded saying that she couldn't come, but was eager to visit and get to know our country. Since then, we have been working for about a year to make this important visit happen. And that's how it came about." So let me get this straight. So she first sent the invitation, Meghan declined because she didn't really want to go. But now that she doesn't have a ton of options and she needs something to do, now she'll go. The honest truth is, she doesn't really care about Ms. Marquez. Meghan's going so she can have a Meghan show. That's what she wants. She's not going to help the people of Colombia. She's not going for any other reason other than to promote herself. She's not going to be there to help other women because she hasn't helped. What other woman has Meghan Markle helped? Really? Really? What other woman has Meghan Markle helped? Because she definitely, number one, has not helped in the slightest her sister-in-law. Meghan, when even having the opportunity, you could say, at the South by Southwest event, talking about her experiences online, she said nothing about her sister-in-law. She has still said absolutely nothing about her sister-in-law, telling people, hey, stop the relentless campaigns against Catherine, stop the hate against Catherine. No, she hasn't done any of that. She's let that slide because, again, it's all about Meghan. Meghan cannot help another woman because she really doesn't care about another woman's plight unless it impacts her own. That who Meghan is. And it is just even reflected in the pictures they choose to post on their website. Harry is an afterthought. I mean, really, the invitation was somewhat for Meghan, but Harry is an afterthought. But the only reason they had the platform, the only reason they've gotten the invitation, the only reason they're being treated like this, and instead of like any other celebrity, is because of Harry's father. That's it. That's it. That's the only reason in the world. So next point I want to get to here real quick is one I noticed almost right away, which is that all of a sudden, instead of doing sort of kind of what you could say normally do, all of a sudden they wouldn't let the press into particular events. And you can say here, the mainstream press. So again, this was a picture and a series of pictures completely grabbed by Harry and Meghan's team and given to the media. In a different situation with Catherine and William, the whole press corps would be involved in this initial greeting. Now, sometimes too, they have to slim it down because of space restrictions and those sorts of things. But the press accompanies them essentially every step. They even start sometimes the meeting between the two dignitaries with the press there, then the press leave. They'll take pictures later. But this I thought was very odd. And apparently, according to Jose Morero, who's there on Twitter, he said that there was an initial plan to have a live broadcast of the beginning of the visit, and then that was dropped for some reason. It's unclear why. He actually is a Spanish commentator, so he may have a little bit more insight than I do. I don't know why it was dropped, but it comes across to me as very curated and managed. And even this, for somebody who was there to change things, this is very banal. Just Harry and Meghan, they're visiting Colombia, met the vice president and her partner, known for her fierce advocacy on the environmental justice and human rights. Vice President Marquez is a champion for marginalized communities and a defender of Colombia's natural heritage. Her work has garnered international acclaim, and her official residence, they had coffee, tea, and delicious pan de bono, a traditional Colombian cheese bread. And the vice president shared her vision and love for Colombia, passion for mental health, and devotion to preventing online harms. Unfortunately, we know nothing because you guys didn't let us in. So all you're saying is nothing. You're saying nothing because you didn't let anybody in to actually see any of these interactions. And again, we see this with the school visit. So Harry and Meghan there, and then they talk about All the vice, the second engagement of the day. Ooh, that nobody was at except for their personal photographers, and a great addition as well. And so it says they went to this school where they had different students and they fostered individual talents and stuff and problem solving. The Duke and Judges participated in an insight session alongside hosted by, okay, I think that's written wrong. It needs to be reworded. The Archwell Foundation, delving into discussions about the digital world and its impact on society. Of course, we don't know anything about what they said. The students expressed profound gratitude for their digital literacy course, which transformed their understanding of technology use, helped them gain control over their tech habits, reduce anxiety, while also participating in critical insights on social media algorithms and ethical considerations. Yeah, I'm sure the kids sat through that and really took it to heart. Because when I was in high school, I cared about the social media algorithms and the ethical considerations of my social media use, not making sure my friends actually like my posts I'm so desperate for them to like. Social media wasn't really around when I was high school, but you sort of get the point. This is kind of silliness in a way. It's kind of silliness. So they have these kids and they're giving them what I feel like is more of adult think here. And not to mention the fact we don't see any of these interactions or hear, more importantly, any of these interactions. How do we even know this is correct? How do we even know this is correct? This is just from Harry and Meghan. Again, Catherine and William go and you actually hear audio of interactions. And so you can gather whether or not it was good or bad or what they learned and those sorts of things. And yes, sometimes it's harder. I think in Pakistan, it was a bit more challenging for the press to cover certain things, but it was covered very well. They could actually hear them talk, hear them interact. Here, we don't get any of that. And of course, couple enjoyed a lively recess where they met more students, observed volleyball, and the school's award-winning gardening program. It underscored the importance of nurturing young minds in supportive environment and providing opportunities for both personal and academic growth. Harry and Meghan were deeply moved by the students' passion and creativity and expressed their admiration for the school's commitment to education and community enrichment. Sorry, Harry and Meghan, but we know none of that. What you're saying is meaningless. It's meaningless because we have no evidence for it. It doesn't exist. You guys made sure it didn't exist because you didn't want the transparency. And that's what I have an issue with a lot of this, is that it lacks an element of transparency. And for someone who's supposedly there to help create change, don't you want it to be transparent? Don't you want people to know what you're doing? What I found really interesting as well, actually, is that there is a video out there of Harry and Meghan. And I can't show you the audio because there's no audio to this video. It has zero music. Like they couldn't even get a audio music to like put in music as a background to this video. Like I can do that really easily. Like anybody can do that on their phone super easily. So they didn't do any of that. And again, we can't really judge any of these interactions or anything by what they're saying because they didn't let anybody in behind the scenes. And so what they're saying to a certain extent is sort of meaningless because we have no independently verified evidence for it. So now let's go back to People Magazine here real quick because this is the kicker. So Harry and Meghan, of course, they don't let Getty images to this particular event. They did to one later, but they did let Backgrid. Yes, oh yes. The company that takes the paparazzi pictures of Harry and Meghan were invited apparently, or at least are somehow there to take pictures of them while they're greeting kids at this school. So it shows you where their priorities truly lie. And I gotta say, I find this a little like inappropriate that he's like so close and like leaning on her. Again, because again, there's this thing with royal decorum. And when you're not following that, they're setting an example for how people will treat potentially Catherine and William. And again, all of these things, yes, everybody knows there's somewhat of a difference between Harry and Meghan and Catherine and William and the rest of the royals. But all these silly stunts that Harry and Meghan pull because they're just so desperate to be taken seriously does undermine the monarchy's influence abroad. It does. It 100% does. Because these students may one day maybe meet Catherine and William and wondering why they're being maybe a little bit more standoffish than Harry and Meghan, because Meghan has basically shown them that royals just get all close and cuddly with other people, which is not just what they do. But again, I thought the back grid thing was really funny. Harry doing that a bit. Got back grid over here as well. And of course, security kindly provided by the Colombian taxpayers. Here, guys, Meghan smiling and waving, and Harry giving a thumbs up and everything. And then you got that other picture. There was that other picture somewhere. Anyways, you could see the security on top of the buildings and stuff. And it's like, Colombia, your taxpayer dollars, hard at work there. Hard at work there. So, taking all this into consideration, Harry and Meghan want to look like royalty. They attempt to act like royalty, but they're not doing any of the transparency really. They don't have any actual diplomatic power at their backs. And they have really no reason to be treated like this. I mean, honestly, it almost sounds like a fan visit. They're visiting Colombia because the vice president is a fan. And so they're pulling out all the red carpets to treat her like as if she was Taylor Swift or something. And obviously, she's not. And there's a reason royals should be treated differently. But here's the point, and here's where I think Harry and Meghan are treading into very, 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 very dangerous territory here, is that Harry and Meghan go to these countries, have these countries pay for their security essentially, because Colombia is on the hook for some of this money, 100%, on the hook for transportation and all these sorts of things. But Harry and Meghan have absolutely zero ability to actually return on that investment. They have zero ability to return on that investment. So they are taking money from a country essentially. Now, again, this kind of transportation, security, whatever is all caught up in this. They're essentially taking money to do something that they don't really have the power to do, don't really have the authority to do, don't have the ability to do. And they know that, but they're still going to take the money. That's where I think Harry and Meghan are in dangerous water here. Because when you're doing that and you offer nothing, you're deliberately kind of taking money from other people. And it's kind of corrupt, I think, in a way. And this will only appeal, I think, in some ways to more corrupt countries. Colombia, I looked, is like 80 something on the list. Nigeria is much further down, something like 150 or something out of 180 countries. But Colombia here also runs a risk of looking a little bit like that because they're inviting and spending money on two people who have zero ability to do really anything to justify that level of expense. So let's take a step back and how are royals different? So when royals go to a country, they come not just as extensions of King Charles, which they do. He is head of state of the United Kingdom, but as extensions of the British government. So British government officials often accompany in a more sort of background way so that they can develop relations between these two countries. It's a way to connect. It's a way to deepen the ties between two different nations. That is what state visits are. And royals have a very different role because most countries, like the US president, doesn't really do state visits. He'll go to other countries and visit from time to time. But he can't really do a state visit in the same way because he is also head of government. Whereas the UK, the head of government and the head of state are two separate positions. The head of state represents British interests abroad. So when Catherine and William go to any place, when Sophie, when Edward, when Anne, when they go to any of these countries, they take not the authority of themselves, but the authority of the entire British government, essentially. Now, they can't really enact any policies or anything like that, but they can help facilitate, let's say, aid money flowing through certain countries. They can facilitate support of various enterprises. They can help deepen business ties. They can do all these things. They can have a strong impact on the country that they are visiting. We see this with Queen Letizia. She visited, I think it was Guatemala, and she was doing it on behalf of Spanish aid. Now, I can't remember exactly the name for it, but basically it's like USAID for Spain. So it is the Spanish equivalent of their governmental NGO that offers money essentially and support to other countries for poverty issues, water issues, those sorts of things. And so she was going on there on behalf of that. And so she took the authority essentially of the Spanish government. And she even wore the vest that they all wear and everything. So She was really invested in it. And she is able to help facilitate, help maybe they may get more aid because she is there. Because again, she is acting in many ways on behalf of the Spanish government, the Spanish people, and Spanish aid. King Felipe just landed into the Dominican Republic. He goes, and I'm not sure quite the reason for his visit, but he comes and he has authority of Spain. When William Alexander goes abroad, he's bringing the authority of the Netherlands. You have the King of Sweden. You have the Emperor of Japan. When these people, when royal heads of state go abroad and anybody attached to that royal household that's working royal brings that influence with them. Harry and Meghan have none of that influence. And at this point, the British government, and it should be the US government too, is giving them two giant steps back and going, no, we really don't want to associate with it. And so Colombia is spending all that money and getting none of those benefits. None of those benefits. And to participate in something like that, I think makes Harry and Meghan look pretty bad too at the end of the day. Not only does the government of Colombia look bad and to its own people in many ways for fostering this because they're spending all these resources and they're not going to get any return for it. Now governments do that all the time, of course, but this is going to be something very, very public. It could come up later and really bite the vice president in the butt because people are going to go. And this was actually interesting. I found this quote from somebody on Twitter, and it was a translation, so it's not obviously perfect. It says, the one who said she prefers to be with her poor people than to be with the oligarchs. Ha 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 ha. Harry and Meghan were called in many instances in the posts I saw from this Colombian news site on Twitter, were called essentially oligarchs. And it's not necessarily a very flattering comparison because oligarchs are, according to Webster's dictionary, one of a class of individuals who, through private acquisition of state assets, amassed great wealth that is stored especially in foreign accounts and properties, and who typically maintain close links to the highest government circles. And they're not looked on particularly well. And Harry and Meghan obviously don't even have those resources. And so, again, when royals come to countries, they bring the might of their government behind them. Now, again, they're exercising soft power, but Harry and Meghan don't have power. They have nothing. Now, let's compare it to, let's say, a businessman like Elon Musk. Elon Musk, now, if he goes to Colombia and they provide this grand resource to him in terms of security, I mean, he would have his own, but maybe they would offset some of that as well. He could be extremely beneficial. He has a ton of money. He has Tesla. He can build Tesla facilities. He can build a Starlink link, you could say, to Colombia. He could build some sort of factory. He could start, what is this? SpaceX. He could do that there. He could set up a Twitter office there. Like there's so many things that Elon Musk can help in the country. And he could just give them $50 million cash and walk away. So yeah, it makes sense to treat him like that because a man with his level of resources could give you a lot of benefits down the line. It behooves you as a government to keep this man happy. Now, let's say a celebrity. Now, Harry and Meghan, of course, you could call them celebrities, so maybe they would fit more into this. But there's a difference here. So let's say Taylor Swift goes to Colombia to do a concert. Now, it behooves the government to make sure Taylor Swift is protected because number one, she's a huge figure. So if something happens to her, obviously it would reflect back on the Colombian government. And that is the same for Harry and Meghan, I will have to say. But if Taylor Swift does a show in Colombia, that helps the local economy. So yes, you maybe have to pay additional to help her secure her concert venue and everything because you need that to be secure so nothing bad happens. But at the same time, too, you get the benefit of Taylor Swift having a concert in your country and generating a lot of interest in your country because she's performing and people from other countries coming in and spending a lot of money on hotels, on food, on taxi rides, and those sorts of things. All those things help the economy. So you get the economic benefit of Taylor Swift having a concert there. You get the benefit of having a billionaire visit by potential investments that they may do company-wise in gifts or NGO support, something like that. Royals come and you get benefits with the governments they represent, whether that is Spain, whether that is Sweden, whether that is Britain, or that is Belgium, those sorts of things. You get the benefit from that. Harry and Meghan, what do you get the benefit for besides headlines? That's all you get the benefit for. They have nothing else to give you. And so when they have nothing else to give you, what do you gain? The answer is nothing. You really, at the end of the day, gain nothing because even with Harry and Meghan being on this anti bullying bandwagon, they really only had the same set of parents that they went to New York with a year ago. So they're not really building their organization, Parents Network. Even Jane Pauley figured that out pretty quickly. And so at this point, Columbia is simply wasting money. And that could make them look rather corrupt. And they're already struggling with corruption issues. In fact, part of the criticism for Harry and Meghan visiting Colombia is that it was a way, perhaps because the president is under a lot of different corruption allegations and everything. The president could have gone, yeah, hey, invite Harry and Meghan here. They can distract from our own problems. There's actually another protest going on that day and everything in Colombia regarding teachers and stuff. So it's a way for the government to deflect. And Harry and Meghan are participating in that. They're participating in that. They're willing participants, which makes them look as corrupt as their hosts because they know they have nothing to offer at the end of the day. They have to know that. But they are willing to be used because they want attention. They want money, even though this doesn't make them any money. And they want the validation of being treated as royalty, even though they gave up that lifestyle. They want to still be treated that way. And I think it leaves them open to a lot of criticism. I mean, we criticize them anyways, but leaves them open to even, I think, more criticism and really starts them down the path where they could end up in a really dangerous, tangled web because for them, it was more important to gain a little bit of attention than it is to do the right thing. But those are my thoughts. You can disagree. Those are only my opinions, of course, subject to interpretation. So just wanted to put that out there that these are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I'd love to know how you think Harry and Meghan's tour of Colombia is going. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.